Good evening, everybody. It is Hugo Quintanilla with Long and Foster. I am your Maryland realtor here for Live at 5, your 15-20 minute space a day to learn a little bit more about real estate and how it could benefit you. Welcome to this space that is yours. If you have any comments or questions, feel free and leave them in the comments below. DM me, go ahead and send me a text message. My phone number is 240-389-4846, or go ahead and send me an email at hugo@lnf.com, and I would be more than happy to answer your questions. If you or anybody you know is interested in real estate or has questions or would like answers regarding real estate, feel free and pass on my information. I'd be more than happy to help them out. Today, ensuring our future homes, navigating rising premiums and climate risks. Everyone that owns a home knows that these last few months have been really tough for insurance premiums and how much they've gone up. So, we're going to discuss a little bit about why this is from an article with NAR from the National Association of Realtors that speaks to the national problem that we're having of areas that are changing because of climate change. So, no one can really deny that the planet is changing. And as of right now, some of these changes have started to really impact areas that are prone to flooding, prone to fires, and prone to other such natural disasters. Today, this article, came out, and it was written by Melissa Dickman Tracy, and it, I think, encompasses very well the challenges that insurers face. More than anything, we're seeing insurers leave certain states and certain areas because the risk has really become too great. We've seen homeowners go with underinsured properties or no insurance, which is, highly risky. And these are all things that are coming because we're seeing rates increase almost 21% in some places. So we'll talk a little bit more about it in detail. And I'll, highlight a few key pieces in this article. But that's really the backdrop of this conversation, is that they aren't making any more land. They aren't making any more earth. And that's really the crux as to why real estate will always continue to rise. As we start to take care more and more of this planet, and as we start to conserve more of this planet, we'll start to have less and less available land to build. The constructions will be different, and any sort of construction to this point is having some sort of natural effect on the ecosystem around it. It's just without a doubt that that's just what ends up happening. We haven't gotten to a point where our architectural design and our needs for housing have met a point of balance with nature. There are some designers and there are some architects that specialize very much in working with land and natural sculptures and trees and hillsides and valleys and hardscapes and landscapes. But it's few and far between. The biggest push that we've been seeing as of late has been eco-friendly, energy efficient, trying to make the most of what you're going to use if you're going to use it. That alone is helping to reduce a lot of the, carbon gases, emissions, and all these other byproducts that we have, but it's not enough. We all have to do a little bit on our parts to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Not everything that we do put in the recycling does get recycled, so we need to get more efficient on our recycling methods. and just being more transparent about the fact that we live in a fishbowl. And if you taint the water on one side of the fishbowl, the other side is going to get cloudy as well. So I think when I was very young, it kind of dawned on me that that's how this small little marble works in space. And it's going to be very interesting to see because we're seeing it all over the world. There have been natural disasters from the dawn of time and the inception of this planet. But as of recorded history, they have progressively gotten worse and progressively gotten more volatile and unpredictable. We are seeing more extreme storms and more extreme damage to property than ever before. If it's man made, if it's natural disaster, is irrelevant. At the end of the day, these structures are being destroyed and it's decreasing the number of available housing stock that we have. Point blank. If you don't have the homes anymore, it's very difficult to reconstruct them again. Even if there were homes there prior, you're having people that are going to riskier areas to go try to find a good deal or a property, and you're having the cycle repeat all over again. So something like that is something that you have to keep in mind when you are investing. Um, what are the future risks that might come with this area? Is it low lying? Is it prone to get flooded? Does it rain a lot here? Is it very dry? What are the seasonal changes that might impact my property? There are some places where if the property was not insured correctly, you could lose everything. And really, it's one of your largest investments. The last thing you want to do is lose it to a disaster, natural or man made. It's devastating. And it's one of the worst things that you could ever experience, I believe. So let me just dive a little bit more into the specifics of the article. Well, I have you guys. The article discusses the challenges arising from rising home insurance premiums and their impact on home ownership. Experts highlighted that increasing premiums are outpacing property values, leading to some prospective buyers being priced out of the market and homeowners having to sell. That's the most difficult part, having to sell a property that you don't want to move out of, but you just simply cannot afford. You have to have your wits about you when it comes to that because you can't look at it as a defeat. You have to look at it as a realignment. And it's kind of one of those moments where you can take a second, take two steps back, and readjust to do better into your future than to let this financial burden, keep weighing you down. So I know it's very hard to sell a home sometimes that you don't want to sell, but know that this money will go somewhere else. It will go to something else. And that's at the end of the day, the biggest thing you have to realize that the money doesn't disappear and you won't really lose anything until you sell, unless you sell under value. But if you stay in a property long enough, if you pay it off, you really get such an added value with your equity that there's nothing like it. There's nothing that can jump so much someone's net worth overnight, really. And then real estate. So you got to insure it. You got to make sure that it's being taken care of for the things that are outside of your control. Factors like climate events, construction costs, inflation, and reduced competition in the insurance market are driving up premiums. Like I mentioned earlier, we're having companies disappear either because they can't pay out, they got completely wiped out because of a natural disaster, or they are choosing to reduce their coverage area because they are experiencing too many losses in specific areas. And it's just too high risk for them to keep insuring them. Technological advancements allow for predicting property risks due to climate change, emphasizing the importance of future oriented risk assessment. Can I tell you that modeling. It's from CoreLogic. That modeling is so good, it can predict 15 to 30 years out what climate change might look like. You know, no one has a crystal ball, but CoreLogic is one of the biggest aggregates of data when it comes to that field. And if they can confidently say 15, 20 year out predictions, I think that's a pretty good baseline to start. And it kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking for and what we're coming up against, really, when it comes to the climate challenges that we're all facing. Strategies to address the insurance issue include strengthening housing against climate events, promoting stronger building codes, incentivizing community resilience, and utilizing innovative financing for retrofitting homes. That's what I think is one of the most unique approaches to this, is actually thinking about the people that already live there that might not have the money to invest in the property, to retrofit it, to get it up to code, to be more resilient against some of these larger storms. We've come to a point now where technology has blossomed and has given us all these great innovations for storms and for hail and for lightning and for fires. There's so many new materials and so many new building techniques that have been created to help mitigate disasters, that it's amazing technology, but it all comes at a cost. And sometimes as a homeowner, you know that, it's tough enough just even getting into the home. So imagine having to pay an extra expense just to make your walls, more fire resistant. You hope that the place never goes up in flames, and that's usually the logic that takes you through for 30 years. But all it takes is that one spark and that one candle to make the whole thing go up, and your investment just goes up in flames. You know, you have to always have your insurance covering, and make sure, even if it is pricier, make sure you're being insured for what you need, and consult an insurance professional, because you could be overpaying for insurance as well. So knowing exactly what you need and getting an appropriate package for your need is essential, so you're not overpaying or underpaying for coverage. Despite climate risks, experts stress the importance of strategic planning for future housing developments. Ultimately, the article underscores the need for proactive measures to mitigate climate risks and maintain resilient housing choices for the future. If we don't take care of the houses that we have now, no one will. When a property goes up for the government and the government finally gets it, or it goes to auction, at that point, that property has been so distressed. Um, it takes time and it takes money and it takes effort. And all that time, money, and effort is time that is stopping another family from finding a home. And I've gotten to the point now where I really look at these properties like that. It's, what is the downtime between now and the next time that we'll be able to have someone inside this property? Because every property has value. Everyone needs a place to live. And it really just comes down to how safe the property is, where the property is, and what the property has inside to offer that matter. So this article is kind of a little bit more on the boring side, because nobody really wants to talk about insurance. It's not really an exciting topic, but I know for many of us and many homeowners, it's something that actually can make the difference for how we operate and our budgets. We're spending a lot of money already on mortgages, and on top of that, insurance premiums. Well, think about taxes, and taxes increasing as well. You want to keep a budget of how much expenses are changing, because you want to know where your money is going. You don't want to be in a situation where you can't afford the home and you have to leave urgently. If you document the changes that are happening year over year and year against year, you can kind of understand where we're going in the trajectory. Is it going to be increasing by 1%? Is it going to be 2, 4, 9? What's going to be the changeover? In most areas we're seeing around here, we're seeing about 3%. But what does exactly that mean? Are we talking 3% from last year? Are we talking 3% month over month? All things to look into in localized fashion, because you're not going to have the same weather here as you're going to have in San Diego. It's just not going to happen. So you can't have the same insurance policies. Here we get, pummeled with hail or storms. Like, sometimes we get tornadoes, sometimes we get snowstorms. So you can have those types of phenomenons. But for example, California, you can be a lot more propense to have a forest fire. So that coverage needs to be more extended, or earthquake coverage. So the insurance needs to be built for the area that you're in. And you got to work with trusted companies. A lot of these companies are going to be changing and being bought and sold over time. So staying on top of those things and your servicers is just a good idea. Because, as we found out with Mr. Cooper the other day in that breach, no one is immune. So we just have to be aware of what's happening, stay educated, and try to mitigate any risk that we might have. A few other key things to take away from the article is that, like I mentioned, there are stats revealing an average of 21% year increase on home insurance premiums. And it really is a combination of the climate effects, the costs of construction, and market dynamics, that there are just not enough homes on the market for the demand that we have and have had for the last few years. Premiums outpacing property values result in home buyers being priced out and homeowners compelling to sell. That in itself is one of the most frustrating things about trying to get ready for a property, is that every time you think you're close, something like interest rates or something like insurance premiums or something like that, like a minor variable change might occur, and it kind of feels like you're pushing the goalpost a little bit further. Don't feel like that. Just know that when it is your time, you will be ready. You just got to stay the course, and stay the course. Because the same way sometimes the goalpost is pushed further out when rates go up, is the way that it kind of comes back closer when they go down. So if they go down, you qualify for more. If they go up, you qualify for less. So keep this in mind when you hear these news stories, because your buying power will be ultimately affected by how much these premiums change. And the only thing that's changing these premiums is climate change. I know that not one person alone is going to be able to change that, but hopefully the goal is that we all collectively make moves and efforts to try to reduce this. And hopefully these companies will show a decline over time. But right now, we've seen a huge increase. More than anything, as well, I think there's a huge importance that we have to look forward and to the future. Try to mitigate the risks and try to get insurance needs for the future, because a lot of times the article will explain that we could build in these areas, is it's just that we need to know the risk of building in these areas, because what we're having a lot of people that live in these areas, unfortunately, they're at risk areas, and they're being purchased by lower income families, and that is in itself very risky, because you have very harsh conditions in these areas, these disasters that leave these people with nothing, with nothing. It's very difficult and very hard. And what the regulators would like to do, as well as people that are advocating for change, is trying to better predict, better map, and better understand these areas, so that we can build structures that can withstand anything thrown at them. And we're getting there. We're seeing huge innovations. For example, like what's it called? 3D printing homes. So It's going to be very interesting to see in the future what happens. And really, my biggest sigh of relief is that we're seeing changes happen with financing and retrofitting homes and huge initiatives to try to combat climate change and go to a more sustainable and green society. So I'm really excited for the future, and I hope in the next 30 years that we do see progress within my lifetime. But I know that it starts and ends with all of us. And I hope that you do get curious about climate change and finding out how you can do your part to make our planet a little bit nicer and safer and cleaner, because it impacts everything from politics to housing to food. Really, without this planet, we wouldn't be here. So I appreciate you guys listening to me, and thank you again for tuning in. If you have any questions about real estate, about this article, about buying, selling, leasing, investing in Maryland, I'm your guy, Hugo Quintanilla. 240-389-4846 is the phone number. Hugo at lnf.com is the email. And Your Realtor Hugo is my website. I think I said that wrong, but yourrealtorhugo.com is my website. I hope that you have a great evening. I'm a little beat, but I will see you tomorrow. Have a great holiday. Enjoy the festivities. Have a great day off. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow, okay? Take care.